Dale Vence, who is the Ecotricity founder and one of the leading donors to the Labour Party cause. Welcome to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good to see you. Let me ask you a really straightforward question first, Dale. Do you trust this new government to deliver what you want to see delivered on the green agenda?
Yes.
Tell me why you trust them. That was a one-word answer. It sounds like a total expression of faith.
Yeah. The more words, the worse, if I'm saying I'm confident, right? It's a yes. I've met Sir Keir a couple of times, and I've watched his public performances and stuff like that. I think he's a man of great integrity. He said this morning in his speech outside Number 10 that for him it was about service, bringing service back into politics. That was one of the best parts for me of that speech, and actually of the situation that we find ourselves in, because politics has drifted so far away from that ethos. It's part of the reason we're in the mess we're in, and people are disengaged from politics. I just think he's a man of great integrity, and he'll follow through all of the plans in the manifesto.
All right, you rate Keir Starmer. You're willing to trust in his basic integrity, but of course it takes more than integrity to deliver on a project the scale of the green agenda. I mean, you'll remember it was just a few days ago that the guy who was the shadow chief secretary to the Treasury for the Labour Party, Darren Jones, he got into the headlines. He was the subject of a Conservative Party attack because they found words of his as saying that we'd need tens of billions of pounds to fulfil Labour's green promises. We're talking about a green grid by 2030. That got headlines. It was a point of a Conservative attack. And then you go back into the record, and Phil Hammond, when he was Chancellor of the Exchequer, he said achieving that, a green grid by 2030, wouldn't just be a matter of many, many billions. It would cost £1 trillion. Now, that included public and private investment over a period of years. It's still an eye-watering figure. Do you think Labour can or will come up with that kind of money?
So I don't know when he said that, how many years ago it was, but the world of renewable energy has moved pretty fast in, I would say, the last 5 years. Onshore wind and solar cost no money. They need no public support at all. Onshore wind has been banned by the Conservatives since 2014, and solar had its support removed, and planning is difficult for solar. If Labour changes those two things, changes the planning regime around those two technologies, then we need no public money to get to 100% green on the grid.
I mean, that is one of Labour's promises, isn't it? To stop what you call the ban on onshore wind. They say that's going to happen. They're going to remove that planning impediment. I guess it's going to mean putting up backs around the country when that wind energy is harnessed, isn't it? Which takes a certain amount of political determination.
Yeah, and I think Keir has already addressed that. He's already said he's willing to do that because this is so important to our country. I mean, we're not yet out of the energy crisis where our bills quadrupled to £4,000 a year. You know, I mean, it crippled a lot of households, that level of an energy bill expenditure. We're still at something like 50% more than our bills should be. While we stay wedded to fossil fuels, we stay at risk of global fluctuations in price like that one.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's lots of ways to set out why a new government at a time like this is going to struggle to find the kind of money that a green agenda really involves. I mean, when you pick one out of the air, on the roads, electric vehicles. You know, there's a certain demand for electric vehicles, quite a high demand. There's a problem with charging the things. We haven't got enough charging points on motorways, never mind anywhere else. Oh. And they cost money, and governments haven't delivered on it.
No, I built Britain's first national network of charging points, the world's first, actually. And so I'm familiar with that, and I drive an electric car. And it's not my experience that there aren't enough electric points at motorway service stations. I don't know if you've been there in an electric car, if you've looked, but you'll find 12, 18 charges in some of the biggest stations. Mostly they're empty. You can always get a slot. I mean, the situation in the real world is very different to the one in the media world. And on the economic front, let me just mention this. This year, we'll spend £100 billion bringing fossil fuels here just to burn them. They go up in smoke, single-use fuel. For a fraction of that sum of money, we can build all the infrastructure we need to power ourselves from green energy permanently. That's a lot of money to keep in our economy every year, with which we can pay for a lot of things.
And I guess you've been, I imagine you're in pretty close contact, are you, from time to time with Ed Miliband, to give a shortcut, the Green Minister. Does he have your total faith, and does Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves have his?
Oh, I can't speak for them. I do talk to Ed from time to time about the various things we're doing and stuff like that. I mean, Ed believes in the green economy. I believe that Keir does well. I think Labour have bought into the green economy. It's in the manifesto. I mean, it's just obvious. $100 billion that we spend to bring fossil fuels here to burn them. We can keep that money in our economy if we power ourselves from the wind and sun. These things are so obvious. I don't understand why the Tories turned their back on them.
I was speaking to an expert, Dale, who's very positive about this agenda, but he did say on accuracy he was sceptical about whether this Great British Energy investment company would really bring down the cost of bills. And one of the reasons he cited was how the energy market is structured in terms of electricity and electricity from renewables still being tied to a different way of pricing. So he said, look, this is all really good stuff to do. We should be doing it. It's good for self-sufficiency. He was quite sceptical about whether the actual price for consumers would come down a lot.
Understood. So there are two things the government could do, the new government, actually we're talking about, aren't we, could do to change the structure of the energy market. We recommended it at the height of the energy crisis. First one, cap the price of North Sea gas. Put a cap on it like we have retail prices so that the producers can make a profit margin, but it doesn't follow global prices. That would knock $5 billion off our energy bills overnight. The other thing is to break the link between the price of electricity made from gas and all other forms. There's another $5 billion.
Decouple that.
Decouple, absolutely. Cap North Sea and break the link.
Dale,
And do you think they'll do it?
I hope so.
Dale, a message in from Stephen, our listener in Charlton. He says, ask Dale Vince why he campaigned against the Greens where they won in Bristol.
Yeah, and in Brighton and in some other places as well, just for full disclosure, because anybody that wants a Green government, my argument was and is, should vote Labour, because Labour will be a Green government, whereas a vote for a Green candidate will get you possibly a Green MP, but it won't get you a Green government. This seemed obvious to me.
All right, we've got what you consider to be an adequately green government. Your praise has been pretty unstinting, certainly in our conversation. I wonder if you, in the light of that, Dale, I wonder if you'd care to take this opportunity to tell the protesters of Just Stop Oil now they can stop chucking paint at ancient monuments and wonderful works of art. Do you want to take this opportunity?
Well, I think they can. I think they know that. I mean, we have just stopped oil by stopping the Tories. That's done now. There won't be any new licensing in the North Sea. So Labour promised this, and I believe them.
So Dale Vince says, stop it, Just Stop Oil.
They might want to campaign about something else, but they don't need to campaign about oil.
Right, and your voice is going to carry in this government. Do you feel that you're a big donor? I mean, have you shared how much you've given? I'm not sure you've been secretive about that.
Yeah, no, I think it's public. Yeah, £5 million in the last 12 months.
And what have you got for that? Do you get access to some conversation? You shouldn't, and I'm sure you don't, get cash for access, but are they listening to you as a consequence of who you are, what you're doing, and the money you're chucking in?
I don't think so. I never asked for anything. The only thing I wanted was for Labour to win. I wanted to help close the funding gap between Labour and the Conservatives. There always is one. At the 2019 election, the Tories spent more than all the other parties put together. So my primary motivation was to help Labour win the election, because I think it's the most important thing for our country, and I didn't want anything from that myself.
Right, you're not going to be one of those big donors that end up over the road in the House of Lords, draped in ermine.
Who knows? But that's not on my agenda. It's not on my agenda.
Would you, if they offered you a peer, would you take it?
I don't know.
Watch this space. Keir Starmer is about to appoint lots of Keir Starmer is about to appoint new lords. Watch this space.
Yeah, well, interesting. Sometimes the non-answers are the most interesting ones.
The non-answers. Well, it was an answer. I just don't know. It's not on my agenda. I haven't been thinking about it.
All right, Derwin, it's good to talk to you. You're listening to Pienaar and Hazarika in the Green, in the tent at Westminster.